Hi, I'm Nick Charles from Renderosity.com with a special guest tonight. It's Ricky Grove, our staff columnist, who many of you might not know, also runs an annual Machinima Expo, and now in its seventh year. So here's Ricky Grove. We're going to talk about what's going on with this year's Expo.
Hey, folks. Thanks a lot, Nick, for inviting me on your show.
Absolutely. So now it's your seventh year now. What's changed in the...
Oh, golly, every year is completely unique because we accept submissions for films for 3 to 4 months, and those particular films, the ones we finally choose on, we usually get anywhere between 120 to the peak year. I think we got 220 films submitted. Out of that, somewhere between 30 and 40% are actually viewable and are good. So those films sort of drive how we're going to present them, as opposed to we have a certain form and a structure and we just plug the films in. We try to be creative each year. And so in that sense, the festival is different each year. However, in terms of the idea behind the festival, it's essentially the same. Our goal are two things. One is to bring the Machinima community together. Now, for those who don't know Machinima, it's been dominated in the last several years by Machinima.com, which is all based on games and things like that. And it's really an older form than that, and it's real-time animation, real-time 3D animation. In a 3D animation package, you have to render each frame out. In Machinima, you do it, it's all real-time, and you just record the screen. So given that, our goal is to bring the Machinima community together, and secondly, to provide them with the most interesting films and news and programming about how to create films, what they are, what other filmmakers are doing in styles, panel discussions. I basically modeled it a bit after my SIGGRAPH experience, but virtually.
Are there any programs out there that you would particularly recommend for someone wanting to get into this?
Well, there's a wide variety of things you can do, but for an absolute beginner with no real skills or anything, there's a bare bones free program called Plotagon, Plotagon. Now, it's a lot of fun. Basically, you write the script, and then you choose your characters, and then you choose their emotions, and then you have some musical interludes. You don't control the editing, and you don't control their animations, although you can choose, for example, a kiss, a hug, a slap. So it's very, very basic, but it's a good way to get started with it. The downside to it is that it's text-to-speech. It's not audio. But the text, and that's a problem, because as soon as you start playing text-to-speech, your believability is right out the window because, I've been trying to research text-to-speech for years and there's just nothing close, at least that's affordable. I think there's probably text-to-speech that's, AT&T has bought, but that's $100,000 kind of text-to-speech stuff. The very basic text-to-speech is just hardly usable. But if you want to learn about Machinima and you want to practice it, Plotagon is a good place to start.
With this year's Machinima, you're bringing in non-Machinima films now. What inspired? Is that part of the SIGGRAPH thing that you thought to bring in?
Yes, exactly. Before I answer that particular question, let me give just a very brief history of what Machinima is. What the Expo is. Expo grew out of when Machinima was in its peak years in 2000, 2002. There was a live Machinima festival held in New York every year. And I went to that several times, and it was just wonderful. The people that ran it ended up getting jobs in the game industry, and they're doing really well there. But there was nobody that stepped in to take it over. Well, it was such an important gathering for the community. I didn't want it to stop. So several of us got together and we decided to create our own festival, and we piggybacked on the Toronto Games Festival. We had set up a deal with the guy. He was going to fund us and everything. And sadly, a week before we were supposed to do it, the guy pulled out. And we were left in a very, very difficult situation because people had paid for their plane tickets. We had gotten hotels. It was a really bad thing. And it's one of those times where I'm really happy I'm not a gun owner, you know. And so we quickly came up, we had heard of this new place called, this virtual world called Second Life. So a friend of mine had been in there. He says, let's do it in Second Life. Let's make it virtual. And I said, but there's no possible way we can put it together in a week. And he said, we can. And so we did. We put it together in a week. We got it all set up. And for the first 4 years of the festival, we ran it in Second Life. We stopped doing that because the logistics behind producing a live festival was just like producing live TV, except for in this case, none of the guests rehearse. So you don't give them the address to the studio. That's what it's like. So you're trying to get the guests on, and 15 minutes of your programming is trying to get them acquainted with Second Life. You know what I mean? So we gave that up, and we went to pre-recorded formatting, and that worked like a charm. We've done that for the last 2 years and are doing it this year through Ustream. So to get back to your original question about asking about including animation, yes, SIGGRAPH did inspire me, but also I was concerned because the submission level for Machinima had been declining for the last 2 years. And I was worried this year that it might decline below a level in which we weren't actually able to present a viable festival. And so we decided to include conventional animation as a way to make the festival have a large variety of films. Now that was my prediction. As it turned out, it was correct. We had 60% less Machinima films submitted this year, and that's one of the topics of several of our discussions and panels this year as to why that is the case.
What's in line for the program this year?
Well, generally our focus is on, we generally do it at either a 1 or a 2-day festival. This year we went to a 1-day festival. We're going to be running from 9 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time. And we're going to take a break in the middle, half-hour break for people to grab a lunch or go to the bathroom, things like that. So the first part is going to be slightly more practical. We're going to be talking about how to make films, backgrounds of certain films, a panel discussion. We're going to have a tutorial on how to do things in iClone. And then the second half after lunch is going to be focused on films and filmmakers. So we'll be screening all of our jury-nominated films. We'll be announcing our awards. We'll have a couple other pieces of programming. We're profiling 2 filmmakers this year that have been around for almost a decade in Machinima. We have interviews with them. We'll be showing clips from their work and things like that.
With the attendance in it, I mean, you've been doing this now for 7 years. Other than the attendees, the amount of attendees, are you seeing more other people taking notice of the expo? I mean, like gaming companies and stuff like that.
No. Part of the reason for that is that, again, it's a brief history just to make sure we're on the same page. Machinima.com started, and it was run by a guy named Hugh Hancock, who was one of the people that coined the term Machinima. It was a place where all kinds of filmmakers and hackers, because that's really how you did Machinima in the old days. You took a game and you hacked it. You hacked the camera. You did this stuff to make it. In fact, Machinima was originally the only way to watch Machinima was to go inside of the game and watch it. Then people figured out how to record the screen, and then they could make it videos and edit them and things like that. Well, it was a big community, and somewhere around 1999, 2000, Hugh decided to sell the site. And he sold it to some, well, a generous term would be Hollywood types. That's about as generous as I'm going to be with that. And they saw it as an investment. Well, they immediately alienated everybody who was interested in doing Machinima as a form of personal expression and art, because they were only interested in making money off of it. Well, they succeeded beyond their wildest dreams, and now Machinima.com is this huge industry with billions of people on YouTube. What they did is they took it off of the website and they went to YouTube, and it just exploded. their financial background, their financial planning on it wasn't so good, and they've had to change their upper echelon, and they've rebranded themselves, and they've essentially moved. They've essentially done two things. They appeal primarily to the white young males from 15 to 24. That's their gaming program with stunt videos and here's how you play this new game and all of that. I mean, that's well and good. People can do that. That's not what the expo is about. And then the other thing is they've moved towards live programming because they become so big. They're beginning to feel, well, we'll compete with the big boys by producing live programming because we have so much money. So they've actually moved away from machinima, and they're more focused on live programming. However, because they're so successful, they've actually co-opted the idea and the name machinima. So for anybody, 9 times out of 10, when I tell somebody about the Machinima Expo, they immediately think it's associated with machinima.com, and it's not. Who we are and what we are about is a group of people who wants to use machinima as a way of personal expression to create films that are about our lives, about our ideas, our thoughts. We look at machinima as an art form. Now, that doesn't mean we have pictures of candles for an hour and a half. No. There's all kinds of interesting and various films, indie films, and they're terrific. They're just not game-based movies. They're not based on any game worlds. They're not designed to appeal to game players. They're designed to appeal to people who are interested in the same kinds of things So our visibility is low. And because we don't do a hell of a lot to promote it, we don't have a massive crowd. However, we have a substantial crowd every year, and people are excited and interested. Community comes together, and it's successful in that way.
So you've had people that have been following you through the years, same people attending, and yeah.
Oh, yeah. This year, I hope it'll be a little bit different because of inviting non-machinima and conventional animation. We got, somewhere in the neighborhoods of, we'll be screening about 40 conventional animated films in every animated style, stop motion, 2D, 3D, tea leaf animation, sand animation. It's just the variety of styles are amazing. In fact, even one of my favorite films called A Life with Asperger's is basically live action with animation over the top of it. It's a very, very unique way of using live action and animation together about a cartoonist who has Asperger's syndrome. And it's about his experience of being an artist with Asperger's. And it's by Brooke Griffin. It's one of my favorite films. It's one of our jury-nominated films. When we were screening the films, you can tell when a film is really terrific in its jury quality because it just pops right out at you. Because most people make fun, interesting kind of films, but the jury-nominated films, the ones we send to our outside jury to vote on for the awards, those films are so special. They're really remarkable stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to look out for that one.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my favorite ones. We have 10 jury-nominated films this year. We have a screening team of 3 people who view all of the films and debate and vote through a special forum. We oftentimes will watch a film multiple times to see it. And remember, this year is 140 some odd films, so that's a lot of time, including two which are feature length. So it was quite a bit of time doing that. And then we take the 10 films that we nominated and we send to an outside jury, a jury that basically of people that I meet at SIGGRAPH and people that I know who would be willing to vote on those 10 films. We got Bruce Timm this year to be on the jury, who, if anybody knows Batman and Warner Brothers, he's a wonderful producer and animator. And he, along with a team of 4 other people that don't have any connection to the machinima world, for the most part, vote on the films, and then we decide who gets two grand jury prizes and 3 jury prizes. 2 grand jury prizes this year, one for machinima, one for conventional machinima. We'll announce those at the expo on November the 23rd.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
over the years, is there anything that stands out as your favorites? I mean, do you have a couple of your personal favorites that you've seen over the years?
Oh, so many. I've probably seen, well, conservative estimate in 7 years, 1,200 machinima films, easily. I've probably seen more machinima films than anybody I know, Again, just like the indie movement, there's a lot of mediocre kinds of stuff, but they're fun. They're fun films. We try to have a level of quality at the expo, so it's just not a let's get together and show our home movies kind of idea. That there's an actual, criteria for the films. Then they're well crafted. They're interesting. We put a lot of stock in creative and unique kinds of films that don't cover the same territory every year. And I'm frankly amazed, literally amazed at the amount of talent that is out there that people don't know about. We got films from Africa, from Pakistan, from Iran. One film that made our official selections was called The Image from Iran. It was a 3D film. It was only about 1 minute and 30 seconds, and it was just tremendous. Very political film. We got The Afghan Doll from Pakistan, which is about a young girl trying to cope with the war that's going on around her in Pakistan. We got films from Japan. We got films from Canada, France, Germany, Russia. It's amazing to see the variety of talent and desire for people to express themselves through animation. And what it does is, frankly, it's a lot of work, and we don't get paid for it. We put in hours and hours and hours. But you know what keeps us coming back are those films. Those people that put those films together. I want to share those films with people. I want people to see this interesting talent. And that's one of the things that happens is the artists get together and they go, God, I like that. I'm going to contact that person. I want to work with them. Or I want to see more of their films. So I'm going to do a Google search, or I'm going to use the links that we provide in our website to go to their website and find out more about how they make their films, what they do, and become a fan or become a contributor. So that's part of it. That's the bringing together of the community part.
As far as just lost my train of thought.
Choo-choo train! Oh, it's derailed!
I was. It's just amazing to me, just in the past few years, just the amount of creativity that's out there with all these tools that are accessible to everybody. It's just
Yes.
amazing how anybody can put their ideas out there. It's really taken.
Let me tell you, here's an example. We got a film from a guy, Charlie Fasano is his name, and he did a film called Teddy's Bowling Alley. Charlie is a poet, and he lives in Denver. And there was a local bowling alley that went out of business after decades and decades and decades of fun and contests and things like that. So he wrote a kind of prose poem about it. And he works with a band, oftentimes doing sort of spoken poetry with music behind it. And he got the idea to put this together as a film because he was playing around with his iPad and he came across some free stop motion software. So one of the things he does is in his spare time, he does woodcuts, lino cuts. So he started making lino cuts of these characters and people from this bowling alley. And he got a huge cardboard box, painted the inside black, put these characters on sticks, used his iPod to do stop motion photography while he narrated the story of Teddy's Bowling Alley.
That's great.
It is absolutely fantastic. I love it. It's one of my all-time favorite films that the Expo has ever shown. Now that's conventional animation. It's not machinima, but still, when you were talking about creativity, I got to interview him. I contacted him immediately and got to interview him. I said, well, what gave you this idea? Oh, I just thought it would be interesting because I found this inexpensive free software to put it together. And he just did it in a couple months with the help of his girlfriend. And it's this little gem I haven't seen anybody else do anything like this. And his woodcut design is sort of like black and white Edvard Munch. So all of these characters have this sort of sleazy Bukowski-like look to them. Do you know what I mean? And yet he's doing this sort of parody epic, and the night that Billy O'Wanger bowled a perfect 300. You know what I mean? It's funny. It's funny. It's a parody. It's like a parody. It was just great, and that's just one. Yeah.
It's the fact that you put this together like that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think that kind of thing is going to encourage more people to look at free tools. I discovered a program while I was preparing the expo called Telegami. And Telegami is a smartphone and iPad app that allows you to choose a character, a background, put some different kinds of clothing on them, record your voice, and then it does lip sync. And it has canned gestures. Gestures are good, characters are good. So I thought it would be fun to open the expo because we have a little introductory scene, which we usually animate with my voice and one of my co-producers saying, welcome to the expo. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing that, blah, 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 all that. So we open the expo with me, a film of me holding a smartphone and then doing the Telegami. And then when the Telegami plays back, I zoom in so that you can see the result. And so this Telegami opens the show with my voice. And it's completely free. It's charming. It's funny. Obviously, it's not a full-fledged tool for making movies, but it's a lot of fun to play with. And a very creative person could come up with ways to use it that are outside the box. And that's what the expo is about.
That's great. Now, who's all involved in the expo? Who besides you, who else is putting it together? I mean,
it varies from year to year as staff come in and staff go out. The core group of people are the people that were there from the very beginning. Myself, a young man in England named Damien Valentine, a woman who worked for Disney named Ingrid Moon, and a fellow who lives in Florida who's a Machinima filmmaker named Phil Rice. That's the core group of people, and we all. I'm sort of the driving engine behind it, but they all have different things that we do. And then there's a little satellite group of people that are outside that help every year doing small things and getting these things set up. And, you know, the massive amount of details that list of things to do when you have a film festival. You just don't realize the amount of things that have to be done putting together any sort of film festival. Even if it's virtual, it's not like we do this thing in the week before, you know? I mean, we started working on this thing 7 months ago to put it together, to get all the films, you have to re-encode the films, you have to create titles for the films, you have to make sure the films have been uploaded, they put in the right order, organizing the films, you have to do in between transitions, you have to do, I mean, it's just, the list is just on and on and on. And although this year it's all pre-recorded and it gives us time to do it, it's still quite a big task.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was gonna ask when you actually started on doing this, how early you started doing it.
We started planning it in February of last year. The expo takes place in November every year, so we basically took 3 months off. And we do a little a post-mortem after each expo with the community comes together, and we say what worked, what didn't. The big decision thing we'll have to do this year, and we'll be handing out a survey to everybody who comes, is do we want to keep traditional animation as part of the festival next year? We got a little bit of pushback on that idea this year, and so not in a big way, but I want to make sure that the festival is done the way the community wants it to be done. So we may not be doing conventional animation next year. We may not. It just depends on what the community thinks. But we go through the list of, in our postmortem, about what works, what didn't, what we need to add, and then we try to implicate as much, put as much of that into the expo for next year. So in February, we have a meeting and we go over the list of things that people have suggested. we sort of go off and casually start working on that stuff. Then we make schedule planning on when we're going to accept films. Then we start working on how to set that up, advertising, blah, blah, blah. It does get more intense as we get closer. The last month we've done a lot of work, and this coming week we'll be doing a lot as well.
Right. Okay. Now, originally the festival was, what, 3 days originally?
Originally it was 3 days. I have no idea what madness possessed me when I decided to do that, but we stayed with 3 days, and the last time it was in, I think, 2011, was in Second Life for 3 days. I had a lot more help. We had paid help then. We paid people to do it. That's part of the reason why we were able to get that done. But again, it's like trying to do live television, 22 hours of live television with nobody coming to rehearse beforehand. And that's just maddening. It's just maddening. And I come from a theater background myself, so it was just particularly grinding on me because nobody would know what to do. You schedule a 30-minute panel, and the first 15 minutes are, oh, God, I'm bumping into this chair. Oh, my God, look at that. And then when you finally get settled down, they go, well, I can't get my mic to work. You can't do that with a show. And so I realized we have to do all of that beforehand. We pre-record it, clean up all the mistakes, and we present a clean version of that to the audience. And although it loses a little bit of its presence, you know what I mean? Because it's not live, but at least it keeps us sane, you know? And yeah, and since we're doing it for free, we want to have at least a modicum of pleasure in putting the production together instead of pulling out your hair, you know? I think we had the last time we did it, we had some famous guest. I can't even remember who the hell it was. I'm still so mad at the person. And they never showed up for rehearsal. They never answered our emails. So the person who was responsible for them kept reassuring me, they're going to be here, they're going to be here, they're going to be here. So they were supposed to come on at 12 on Sunday, and the show went till 3. We still hadn't heard from them by 11 o'clock. And I was just about ready to cancel it and put something else in. We get an email saying, oh, yeah, I'm coming. Shows up in Second Life. Can't find out where we are, although we sent links and all this stuff. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, we finally got them just barely on time. And just before they were going on, they said, so what am I supposed to be talking about again?
Figures.
Yeah. So after that, you know, after I cooled off and I started talking to other people and listening, I said, we can't have that. We just can't do that. I guess there's a certain kind of person who can cope with that sort of, you know, well, off the cuff, whatever happens, happens. But that's not how I want to present a festival. I want things to be organized. Can you imagine what SIGGRAPH would be like if people didn't show off on the right time or anything? At least we have to have some professionalism enough to say, okay, when we do this, this is when it's going to happen, and that's what's going to happen. I mean, I think that's the basic thing that you have to do to rise above amateurism, to rise above, you know, we're just a bunch of people getting together for a party. That's not it. We're doing a film festival. This is a film festival, and it's going to be done like a film festival. And so far we've been able to make that happen, and I'm really proud of everybody for staying together and making sure it gets done. Let me give some quick details on the festival. The festival takes place on November 23rd, which is a Sunday before Thanksgiving. It starts at 9 in the morning and it goes to 4 p.m. Pacific time. That's Los Angeles time. The festival is completely free. You can attend it. All you need is a laptop and an internet connection, or you can watch it through your smartphone or iPad. Basically, you just go to our website, www.machinima-expo.com. On the front page will be our Ustream channel embedded. You can watch. There'll be live chat. We'll be chatting with each other. The program will play through, and then we'll immediately begin to play again. It's all set up in a cycle. We've got 60 some odd films that are screening outside of the festival that you can watch through them. You can watch them on demand. So, for example, if you can't make the expo, but you want to come see some of the films, as soon as the expo is over, you can scroll through, pick the video you want to watch, and it'll play right there for you on demand. And those films will run all the way through December, to the end of December.
Oh, fantastic.
Sure.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you. I'll be watching the expo.
Great. Thanks. I hope a lot of people come. Thank you very much.